Hello everyone, I am Catherine Galendez from Section D, and today I am going to discuss Chapter 12, which is sampling. What is sampling? Sampling defined as measuring a small portion of something and then making a general statement about the whole thing. For instance, when we go to the market and we decided to buy siniguelas or lumboy, we have this personality that mutilaw, even though isa ra atong gitilawan, and if it tastes sweet, tamis, then we conclude nga ang tanang lumboy or siniguelas sa balde is tamis. Another example, blood test. It is not necessary nga kwaon sa doktor ang atong tanang dugo sa atong lawas. Only the sample. Sampling. Purposes and advantages of sampling. Number 1, sampling makes possible the study of a large heterogeneous population. So, if the population to be studied may be too large, then it is very difficult. So, this is when sampling comes in. Only a small portion of the population may involved in the study. Second, sampling is for economy. Research without sampling may too costly. Through sampling, it saves time and money. For example, 1,000 population. So, kinahanglan sad kag 1,000 copies of your questionnaires. Daghan na kay kag kwarta magasto. So, sampling reduces the study population to a reasonable size that expenses are greatly reduced. Third, sampling is for speed. Research without sampling is time-consuming. For example, interviews. So, kung naay 1,000 ka population, kinahanglan sad nimong interviewon ang 1,000 ka tawo. But through sampling, magkuha ra kag sample sa population nga maoy imuhang interviewon. Fourth, sampling is for accuracy. If it takes too long to cover the whole study population, there may be inaccuracy. For instance, nahuman na ka sa last person nga imong gi-interview and that person is ang ika 1,000. So there's a tendency nga ang first person nga imuhang gi-interview, ang ihang answer may be obsolete or no longer useful. Then, it is not accurate anymore. What may true today may not true tomorrow. So, research must be finished within a reasonable period of time so that the data are still true, valid, and reliable. Number 5, sampling saves the sources of data from being all consumed. So, without sampling, the act of gathering data may consume all the sources of information. For example, we want to find out if the bread of a certain bakery is delicious. So, without sampling, we need to consume all bread in the bakery before making any conclusions. So, through sampling, our research is less hassle, mas madali ang processes, and then less costly, and it saves time. Sampling concepts and terminology. 1. Elements. Elements are the certain types of people, families, social clubs, and others. They are the members of the population. Elements and unit of analysis are often the same. For example, the subject investigation is the families in the slum. Selecting the families to be included in the sample is called elements. When the data have been gathered and analyzed, the families are now called units of data analysis. So, ang element mao ang sample selection, while ang unit of analysis is the data analysis. Population is also called as universe. It is theoretically specific aggregation of the elements. So, population is all the subjects. For example, the study is determining the profile of the college students. So, the term population there is all the college students, whether full-time, part-time, male, or female. Study population. Aggregation of elements from which the sample is actually selected. So, from the population, magkuha rata og only the full-time or full-time male students, and it is defined in the scope and delimitation section of thesis report. Sample is the elements who are actually selected. They are the subject in the study. Sampling unit, set of elements considered for selection in some stage of sampling. For example, sample of census blocks in a city, then select a sample of adults of which only the last of these are the elements. First sampling is the primary sampling unit, which is the census blocks. Second is the secondary sampling unit, which is the household. Third is the final sampling unit, which is the adults. Sampling frame, actual list of sampling units from which the sample is selected. It is the list of all the items in your population, set of source materials from which the sample is selected. It is the complete list of everyone or everything you want to study. Observation unit or unit of data collection is an element from which information is collected. These are the actual respondents to a study. Mo ni ang mga tao nga imuhang gi-interviewed or requested to accomplish the questionnaires for data collection. Variable, set of exclusive attributes, for example, sex, age, employment, status, and so forth. Parameter, the summary description of a given variable in a population. Measures found by using all the data values in the population. For example, the age distribution of all people is a parameter. So let's compare parameter to statistics. Statistics is the summary description of a given variable in a sample. You see the difference? Kung ahang parameter, makuha ang ihang data through population. Ang statistics, makuha ang data through the sample. Sampling error, the degree of error of a sample statistics when compared with the population parameter. So, it is the difference between the sample measure and the corresponding population measure. Due to the fact that the sample is not a perfect representation of the population, and the acceptable maximum sampling error is 5%. Representative sampling. A sample will be representative of the population from which it is selected. If all members of the population have an equal chance of being selected in the sample, from the word itself, representative. So magkuha rata og representative, it means all the characteristics must be proportionally represented. For instance, if the study population is 100 and there are 60 women and 40 men, so in the sample is 20% of the population, then there should be 12 women and 8 men in the sample. Confidence level, degree of confidence that a sample statistics will accurately fall within a certain or specified interval from which the population parameter. The interval is called confidence interval. It is the range which the sample statistics should fall. So, the most common nga gigamit nga confidence level is 95%. And we know that the remaining 5% is mauto siya ang sampling error. Sampling stratum is the group, section, or category of elements from which selection is made in some stage of sampling. So it is quite similar to sampling unit. A sample of census blocks in a city, then select a sample of household from the selected blocks, and finally select a sample of adults from the selected households. So the primary sampling stratum is the city. Secondary sampling stratum is the census blocks. The final sampling stratum are the households. That would be all for my topic. Thank you for listening.